What's up everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today I'll be going through my round 12 AFL tips and predictions. But before we do get into it, we'll quickly go over round 11. And if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go do that now. We want to try and get to as close to 20k subs as quickly as possible. And I still think 50% of you guys who are watching the content aren't subscribed yet. So if you want to do yourselves a favor, go and get that sorted right now before we do get right into the tips. So as we always do, we review last round's tips. And another solid round for my likings. I tipped 7 out of 9, or actually I tipped 8. Unfortunately, I forgot to actually tip on the Friday night game, so it came up as nothing, but I would have tipped the Swans. If you saw my last video, you would have known that I did tip the Swans. So I'm going to say that's 8 out of 9, but it says 7, so a bit disappointing, but yeah, pretty good nonetheless. I mean, we tipped 7 in round 9. We tipped 7 again in round 10, and again in this round we tipped, well, I'm going to call it 8. So really improving with the tips. I'm actually quite impressed with myself with the fact that I've actually improved with the tips and gotten some decent scores. I tipped Brisbane to beat GWS. I tipped Geelong to beat Adelaide. I think everyone got this tipping correct though. The D's, finally, they drop a game. I mean, I actually genuinely thought they could go the whole season undefeated, but Freo, well done to them. I was at this game. They were just way too good for the D's, and yeah, finally, they drop a game, and it makes things a little bit interesting at the top end of the table. There's still a slight chance that they might not finish top, but you'd reckon they probably still will. Of course, I tipped the Dogs to beat the Eagles, but I didn't expect it to be over 100 points. In a bit of a 50-50 clash, I went the Suns over the Hawks, and it wasn't a 50-50 game, that is for sure. They got absolutely creamed, the Hawks, in that one. St Kilda won against the Roos. I obviously got that one correct. And then probably one of the tips of the round, in fact, one of the tips of the season for my end, an upset tip that only 15% of the people went for. Collingwood to beat Carlton, and what a game that was. I am really stoked with that tip. I had a feeling it was going to be a close game, and it was, and I had a feeling the Pies were going to get up and lift to the occasion, and that is exactly what they did. And of course, I tipped Port Adelaide to beat Essendon, a pretty easy one there. We saw a few comebacks this round. We saw Sydney come back over Richmond, the Lions come back in the first quarter over GWS. We saw Freo come back over the D's. But I think the best comeback that we saw this round was my big calls. I was staring down the barrel of an unfortunate 1 of 9. I think I was at 1 tip correct for my big calls after the Collingwood-Carlton game. But then in the last game, Essendon went a quarter without scoring a goal, which was one of my big calls. So I finished the round on 2 out of 9. The other one that I got right last week was, the last game was for GWS to win 2 or more quarters, which is quite a solid one to get correct. And I was simply just relying or hoping that Sam DeConnick could win the Rising Star, as that was my other big call for the round. And Monday night, I checked my phone and jumped for joy when I saw that Sam DeConnick was nominated for the Rising Star in round 11. How good is that? Not only for himself, for the Cats fans, but for myself. I get to avoid another big call. Another punishment for the round. And that's 2 in a row. So for those who got the most likes, as I said last week, suck S-H-I-T-E. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into round 12, because this is what you guys came for, the tips. And what a first game we have lined up for us. On Friday night, we've got the Western Bulldogs taking on Geelong at Marvel Stadium. The Dogs, they're finding their form back with 3 wins in a row, and they're sitting now 8th on the ladder thanks to their complete thumping over the West Coast Eagles. In the game where they had 16 individual goal scorers, that was an equal AFL record actually, which was just brilliant. They did it in emphatic fashion. They were just way too good for West Coast in that one. Geelong have also been finding a little bit of form. I think they had 8 weeks in a row where they went win-loss, 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 win-loss. They're now 2 on the trot, and they would love to make it 3 on the trot. Of course, though, they haven't really played against the best opponents. I mean, they beat Port Adelaide and Adelaide at GMHBA, which you could almost guarantee that will happen anyways. But it just gives the Cats a little bit of confidence, a little bit of form. But, you know, this is a real challenge now for Geelong. They've played against weaker oppositions. They're coming up against a red-hot Bulldogs outfit who are almost back to their 2021 best. I mean, they're probably still a fair bit away from that, but it's going to be a really good game of footy. The Dogs, they're looking strong. The Cats, they look like that side that we're just not too sure of yet. We want to see them play their best against the best. And I think this is going to be a really close game of footy. I am leaning on the Dogs, though. I think they've been slightly more convincing as of late. And at Marvel, they seem to play that ground quite well. I'm going to go the Dogs to win this one by 7 points. With my big call that the margin at every break doesn't exceed 10 points. The second game of the round, this is the first of the 3 Saturday games, and this one's between Adelaide and West Coast at the Adelaide Oval. The Crows, I think they've lost their last 5 or 6 games, but they have been slightly competitive in a few. Like the game that they played against the Cats last week, if they took their chances in that first quarter, the game could have panned out in a completely different way, but unfortunately they just weren't able to do so, and it was the same scenario in round 10. If they took their chances, that they could have won that game, but instead they're sitting at 3 and 8. They're looking like they're probably going to finish bottom 4, whereas the Eagles, if you think that was bad, what I just said about the Crows, the Eagles are they're on a percentage of 49.7 after round 11. I think that's the worst I've seen a side's percentage after round 11 at the midway point of the season that I can remember. Like, people are currently saying that this is the worst side since Fitzroy 25 years ago. Like, currently the Eagles are at a new low. I haven't seen them any worse than what they are at the moment. Obviously losing to the Western Bulldogs at home by over 100 points. You just can't be doing that week in, week out. Even though Adelaide haven't won a game in six rounds, they're still clear favourites in this one. And at Adelaide Oval, I just can't see this result going any other way. I think Adelaide are going to put a number on West Coast like every other side have done so far this season. Adelaide are going to win this game by 50 points. My big call will be that the Crows record their highest score since 2018, which is 119 or higher. The next game of the round, another one that seems to be a one-sided affair. We've got Gold Coast taking on North Melbourne at TAO Stadium. The Suns, they are flying right now. They are looking like a side that could contend for the finals. I think they've got 8 teams in the next 11 who aren't in the top 8. So 8 winnable games to finish off their season. If they win all 8, they make the 8. It's as simple as that. North Melbourne, they are in they're in a terrible position. They're struggling on and off the field. You know, you've got Horn Francis with the contract issues. You've got the list managers departing at a crucial stage. Nothing's going right for North, and they were, again, quite disappointing against St Kilda. Countless skill errors in that game, which cost them, because they weren't terrible. Like, they had glimpses of effort, but they're just a really, really bad side, and they're almost at rock bottom at the moment. Same with the Eagles. The Suns, though, they smashed the Hawks by 66 last week. That was super impressive. They were really good in that game. You know, the Suns are well suited to those, you know, wet, dewy conditions at Metricon, and it's similar up there in Darwin, so that's probably why they got the job done quite comfortably against the Hawks. The odds are $1.07 to $9. Like, you don't really see it so skewed towards the Suns' advantage. I don't think I've ever seen a game where the Suns are $1.07 favourites to win a game of footy, but you know, it makes sense with the way the two sides are going at the moment. The Suns should win this one pretty comfortably. I'm going to go the Suns to win this game by 48 points. A big call that the margin doesn't go below 20 points after quarter time. The last game of the round, on the Saturday I should say, is between Melbourne and Sydney at the MCG. Finally, the D's got a loss. Now, every time I've been reviewing the D's this season, we've been going on about how good they've been after a win. But they've lost, finally. It goes to show that Melbourne are beatable. Or should I say Nam? Could we say that Melbourne are still yet to lose the game of footy? But obviously, yeah, they just got their pants pulled down in that third quarter. You know, the Dockers were running rings around them in that third, kicking 8 goals. I think the Dockers kicked 12 of the last 13 of the game, which is just incredible to think of, considering how well the D's are defensively. But as soon as Stephen May went down, things just went wrong for Melbourne. So it just goes to show how important he is. And of course, the Swans, they got a win to arguably kickstart this season against the Tigers. They were in a bad slump of form, the Swans, and they just needed to get that win, which they got done in controversial fashion. But I still think the D's are a class above the Swans. They're a couple of steps above them at the moment. And even though they lost last week, I can't really see the D's losing 2 games in a row. I've got the D's to win this one by 17. But I reckon the Swans, they're going to be pretty good in this game. I think they're going to lead the game at 3/4 time, but end up losing it. And that's going to be my big call. 2 games to go. The first one of the Sunday games is between Hawthorn and Collingwood at the MCG. Hawthorn were bitterly disappointing against the Suns last week. A lot of people gave them a shot considering they beat the Lions. Like, how does one side go from beating Brisbane to losing against Gold Coast by 11 goals? They're such a hot and cold side, like, seriously. And Collingwood, well, I had a feeling they were going to get up, and they did. They are looking really good at the moment. They're 6-5. Who would have predicted that at this point on in the season? And, well, this is a very winnable game for them, the Pies. They could go 7-5. They are looking really good. People have been giving me a lot of stick for not tipping Hawthorn. I think I've only tipped the Hawks once this season. That was in round 1. And considering the Hawks are such a hot and cold side, I do actually see them winning this game. I'm going to go the Hawks in a bit of an upset here. I think the Hawks, they're going to want to turn things around and make make up for that really poor effort against the Suns last week. And that's why I'm going to tip the Hawks by 22 points, with my big call that both sides score over 100 points. And the last game of the round could be the match of the round. We've got Fremantle and the Brisbane Lions on a Sunday night at Optus Stadium. Freo were super against the D's. They were just super. The best game of footy I've seen Fremantle play probably since the 2013 prelim final, where they beat the Swans. They just ran rings around the D's, and well, the D's defence completely collapsed in that second half. I just haven't seen anything quite like it. And after that performance, it goes to show that the Dockers, they have to be contenders to win the flag this season. Although they are coming up against a red-hot Brisbane Lions outfit who have only lost 2 games. They're sitting second on the ladder, and they've been a little bit hit or miss in the last couple of weeks, conceding 119 and 96 points. But I think they're going to be back to the best in this one, and it's going to be a really good game of footy. I could see it going either way, but I just will find it really staggering if the Dockers are able to beat a side on top of the ladder, and then the week after finish the side sitting second. So I just think the Lions will find a way to win this one. I'm going to tip the Lions in this one, but it's going to be close all game. I'm going to have the Lions win it by 4. My big call, the Lions record their lowest score of the season, which is 70 points or under. So those were my tips for the round. Let's quickly submit them. We've got the Dogs, the Crows, the Suns, the D's, the Hawks, and the Lions. A shorter round, shorter video probably, considering it's bye round, so we've only got the 6 games. Given we've got less games to worry about this round, hopefully it means that I've got a greater chance of getting all my tips correct. And of course, before we wrap things up, we're going to go and review my tipping comp to see who is leading. So look at round 11, and no one tipped 9 out of 9, which isn't surprising. I mean, who was going to tip Fremantle? Let's be real. Not even the most optimistic Freo supporters were giving them a chance. We have ESPN Fan, who tipped a perfect score of 8 and a perfect margin. And then we have Liam Had, Dare Inc., Lockie, Rolls Macca, and a few other people such as AFL Legend. Look at all the people who are also in the top 60 for the round who tipped 8. How many people actually ended up tipping 8? We had 62 that tipped 8. UCAT also tipped 8. So let's see who is leading the tipping comp at the end of round 11. And we have Lion Boldo 1 with 97 correct tips. We've mentioned his name a few times. Rowan Marshall's son on 96. Banger Harvey, speaking of mentioning a few times, with 95. Nick Dacres official and Wilson Berry. And then we've got a bunch of people on 93. Geordie Pluto included on 19. He's only 4 away from top spot, so I sort of don't want to have to give money away to Geordie. That is the top 50 for my tipping comp. Mitch Go Freo rounding out the 50th spot. So those were my tips and predictions for round 12. Again, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe if you are yet to subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot of content coming your way this week, including the goal kicking challenge most likely. If you want to comment down a punishment for me to do this week, feel free to do so down below. And considering it is the bye round and there are only 6 games being played, the deadline is only getting 2 correct big calls. So I only have to get 2 correct to avoid the punishment, which does make sense. And yeah, thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you soon in my next one.